Welcome, everyone, to episode 16 of Open Discourse. First of all, happy 420, everybody. Today's April 20th, International Weed Day, so we're celebrating it by...
So we're selling some weed.
We're selling it? No, we're celebrating it by having a podcast about marijuana.
Yes, an open discourse conversation about... I don't know, how controversial do you think this topic is?
It's becoming less and less controversial.
Okay.
As time passes, I think it used to be something that was taboo to talk about, even 10 years, well, maybe 20 years ago. It was taboo, and now people just talk about it freely, and I think it's becoming less and less of a big deal.
When I was in high school, middle school, people who smoked weed were generically referred to as potheads.
Yes.
Was the word that was
Stoners.
The term.
Yeah.
Oh, he's a pothead.
Yeah.
Is what I heard a lot.
The negative view of it is, I feel slightly going away.
Slightly, yeah.
So that kind of leads us into our poll.
Right. Let me pull that up.
You want to pull that up? So the question on the poll this week was, should marijuana be legalized for recreational use? Did I say that?
Yeah.
Almost exactly how you had it worded?
In Missouri.
In Missouri.
Since that's where the majority of our audience base is right
Yes.
now. And because it's, you can't ask, should it be legalized? Because it is in some places, recreational use is legalized.
True.
So the results were 73% said yes and 27% said no.
Okay.
That was 30 votes total so far.
Okay. Yeah. And one thing that I noticed, and I guess it's something to point out, is that the majority of the people who voted were female. I don't know if that would make a difference to anybody, but I believe there were seven out of the 8 votes for no were female, and then I'm not sure what the breakdown was on voting yes. I think there were only 8 guys who voted yes on the should it be legalized for recreational use.
So were you shocked at all by that result?
No, not really. That was kind of almost exactly where I thought it would be at, especially after looking up the statistics on how America thought in general.
I was slightly shocked since, our Facebook page is kind of a public forum. I was surprised of the public support of it, the amount of people that were willing to say, yes.
True. Just people putting their opinion out there on saying, yes, I think it should be legalized. That is kind of surprising. I had a few statistics here just to kind of put everything into context as far as where the approval used to be and where it is now. In 1969, I'm not sure of the age range of people that were polled, but only 12% of people said it should be legal for recreational use.
This is in the 60s?
Yeah, in 1969. So, yeah, it was 12%. In the year 2000, it was 31%. But then from the year 2000 to 2018, it's now 62%. So it almost doubled in 18 years. And so in the past 20 years, kind of exactly what we were saying. In the year 2000, it was still considered to be a bad thing, but now the vast majority of people are all for it. So you voted yes, right?
I did, even though I wouldn't necessarily say that I'm a pro marijuana or pro weed person myself. I'm definitely I'm not totally anti. I'd say I'd sit somewhere in the middle. I know some people are it's a cure-all drug, does it, no negative side effects, fixes everything.
Yeah.
I'm definitely not there. Do I think people should be able to legally obtain it? Yeah, at this point, I think I am.
For me, it was kind of this thing where I used to be that person who was it should just be 100% legal. I'm 100% for it. It's nothing but good. There's no bad sides to it. And as I've matured a little bit, I kind of now I acknowledge the fact that there are some downsides to it. And I think a lot of people, I would consider myself definitely pro marijuana. Okay, all right, I'm going to say it. So I use marijuana.
Okay.
I'm a marijuana user. It just sounds so weird to say out loud, and I know that people are going to see this. I guess to the people who didn't know that about me before or were shocked at the fact that I would say it out loud, I just feel so strongly about it, and that's my opinion, and I'm willing to say it now. But yeah, as far as the pros and cons, some of the pros I just want to go over first, and just feel free to interject.
Yeah, go
ahead. Stress relief, helps treat anxiety, appetite. It has been shown to reduce seizures, epilepsy, It also releases interocular pressure, so it's effective in treating glaucoma. Um, and then some of the cons I wrote down were it can make people lazy. It can cause paranoia. It can, at the same time, with the appetite, it can cause you to overeat and gain weight. Sometimes people say it gives them like a really introspective thinking that they, aren't into. It kind of like clouds their mind and, makes them nervous. Some studies have shown that it can cause the onset of psychosis, but this is in like a few studies, and that's kind of, I don't know. I don't want to say that's like 100% a fact, but some studies have shown that. It can also inhibit brain development depending on what age you are whenever you start using, and then it causes short-term memory loss.
Right. So this is maybe where I would interject, and I think in this conversation we really have to get down to, what are the chemical components of marijuana, because it's not just marijuana.
Right.
The two main chemical components are CBD and THC, and I feel like you could almost, on your list of pros and cons there, switch pro out with CBD and cons of THC, because all those pros are being caused by the CBD aspect of marijuana, and all those negatives come from the psychogenic effects of the THC.
True.
So that's kind of my question. Obviously, in Missouri just recently, we voted to approve it for the medical use.
Yes.
But again, a lot of times that's CBD. I would say the vast majority of the times it's CBD only products and not with no THC.
Mm-hmm.
And so then the question kind of comes down to these recreational smokers. They're not smoking CBD only products, or some of them are, but a lot of them are smoking THC products, and that's why they're smoking. Like, they might feel mellowed out, but like the high is fun, or that introspective thought, maybe they're striving for that, So like, what are your opinions there? Do you still think that because I would say, I think CBD use should be legal to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And I would maybe kind of hold back on the THC kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But are you fine with THC being legal and available for people to purchase and use?
Yeah, 100%. I think that there are medical benefits to the THC molecule, and people don't realize it, but it is. As far as like the introspective thought, I think it's good to kind of take a look at like your values and how you see the world and how you think about things. And for me, my personal thoughts and the way I use it is sometimes I'll smoke it and I'll think about interactions I've had with other people where I've been rude or I've done something, and then I will smoke or whatever, and I'll think about that moment. I'll be like, why did I do that? And then I honestly think that weed has made me a better person, a kinder person, more thoughtful, just like the way I handle everyday interactions with people. I don't know. See, here's the thing, though. I can't speak for everyone.
Right.
So I don't know if people use it the same way I do. And also another thing I wanted to say was everybody experiences it differently.
For sure.
Some people like it and some people don't, and that's completely okay. But yeah, just everybody has a different way of it affects them differently, is what I'm trying to say.
Right. Yeah. Right on. I guess I'll kind of bring up my own personal with that. I have tried it once in my life, and I had a very negative reaction, especially initially. Towards the end of the effects of it kind of wearing off, there was a couple more positives, but for me, I was like paranoid, like on a scale that was just like off the scale of paranoid.
Yeah.
I remember thinking I was on a balcony at the time that I was going to fall off the balcony and I needed to go inside.
Right.
I was like scared that I couldn't see. Like it was like really like weird stuff was happening to me.
Mm-hmm.
And you talked about it before, this kind of lack of or loss of control kind of feeling, and I felt that heavy, and it was not a pleasant experience.
I think a lot of people use it, and then they're not used to not being able to control their thoughts, and their mind starts to wander, and then what they want to do is they want to like grab onto that sobriety, and the more you try to like grab onto that and control the experience, the scarier it can seem. And
it's like if you have drank so much that you've gotten drunk before, maybe sometimes it can be equated, but for my one-time personal experience, that kind of out of control feeling was more scary than a
Mm-hmm.
than a drunk feeling. I don't know
Right.
why. I think it's because
The onset's quick,
the
I
onset's
believe.
quick. And while you're like out of control, I feel like alcohol almost takes you so much to a point where you're like you don't even care that you're not in control.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, at least again for me personally, the one time I smoked, I was like slipping out of control, but still totally fine. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like I
Yeah.
wasn't.
And see, here's the
It was
thing.
more of an introspective out of control than
Right.
like my behavior and my actions. It was.
Yeah. Yeah. A few things with that. So again, it could just affect you differently than other
Mm.
people. It might just be something that it's not for you. It could be that simple. It can be your mindset going into the experience. If you have a positive mindset going into it and you want to do it, it can have. It can be different if you're kind of like on the fence and you're not sure if you want to do it, or you're not in a good mood that day or something like that. So it really depends. As far as like not being experienced in it and the fact that that was your first time, I
Mm-hmm.
think we went about that the wrong way. And if I had the knowledge I have now, that I feel like that would have been a different experience for you. Um, if you are gonna try marijuana and you're of age, I mean it is illegal here,
Mm-hmm.
but if you're at least an adult and you want to try it, there are some safe ways to go about it. First of all, if you're going to eat it, it's way more psychoactive and it's way more intense. So be super careful if you're going to go about eating it. If you're going to smoke it, what I would recommend is to do like one hit, one drag, and then just wait. And do not do a whole bunch all at once, because then you're just too deep, and
Mm.
like I was telling you, you can't, there's no coming back from that. You
Yeah.
just got to let it wear off. Like
Right.
there's nothing you can do to sober up. Once you're out of control, you're out of control. You're in for the ride. But I think people who have smoked it more than once, or they have experience with it, they're ready for that, and they go, okay, well, I'm just, my mind's wandering and I can't really take this where I want. But they just you relax.
Let's kind of go back to that poll question and just hit
Okay.
a couple things
Okay.
underneath that I had. Um, if it were to become legal for recreational use, I believe in states where it is, the age is 21,
Yes,
just
it
like
is
alcohol.
for recreational use.
Okay. And what's the age for medical?
18, which is kind of surprising to me.
Mm.
If you're like 18 years old and you're in a state where it's legal medically and you
Mm.
have you can go and get it at the age of 18.
I would think that maybe coming from a medical background that there's kind of this cost benefit analysis where it's like, okay, at age 18, could there be some negative effects? Yes, but maybe it might the good that
Might outweigh
yeah, might
the
outweigh the
negative.
bad is why there'd be some difference. But the reason that the drinking age is 21 here and that the marijuana age is 21 here is because the prefrontal cortex of your brain isn't fully developed until then, and that's kind of like what your brain uses for like reasoning
Mm-hmm.
and judgment and being rational.
I
And taking those substances before then, especially in heavy amounts, binge drinking can really damage that.
I know you're gonna kind of be shocked by me saying this, but I actually think that the age for recreational use should be 25.
I'm not shocked at all.
And I think in what I looked up is that the prefrontal cortex in some, I don't know if it's like studies or whatnot, but they say it actually isn't fully developed until 25.
Yeah.
I know we say 21 for alcohol and for marijuana, but I wouldn't want to do it if it was going to have long-term negative
Hmm.
effects on my brain.
And I'm pretty sure those negative. I don't have anything to cite, but those negative effects are proven already. Like that's not up for
Mhm.
debate. A
Yeah.
14, 15-year-old who starts regularly smoking marijuana
Yes.
and does so till the age of like,
Till adulthood.
yeah, they're gonna be. I don't know
They,
if slow is the right word, but there's definitely
yeah.
gonna be some brain development that didn't take place or that was altered,
Right.
and it has negative effects. And I don't when I say yes, I think it should be legal for recreational use. I do think that the THC should be, like that kind of product should be legal.
Mhm.
But like I would say 25 would be a great age, and I totally condone it in anyone who's younger than 21 for sure.
Yeah. If you're a kid and you're thinking about using it, I mean, okay. So I tried it whenever I was younger. That's
Yeah.
all I'm gonna say. But it I didn't even really like enjoy it at the time.
Mhm.
I mean, I just tried it, just to try it, I guess. But if I had to give advice to anyone who was, yeah, like you said, even under the age of 21, I would say just, maybe try it, but don't use it.
Don't become a regular.
No,
Yeah.
I would definitely say don't use it
Wait
on a
as long
regular
as
basis.
wait as long as possible.
Definitely.
And that's kind of one of so there's There's so many places I want to go with this conversation.
Okay.
I'm gonna try to rein it in. One of the other things I want to talk about with like the legality of it
Mhm.
is smoking and driving.
Okay. Yeah.
I my shit attack the mic, getting heated here. From my personal experience, I will honestly say that I would have been. I don't even think I could have got to the car. I was so like,
Oh yeah.
inebriated from
Yeah. Yeah.
from how it was working on me. Maybe some
Right.
people can smoke a little bit and still be fit to drive. Just like you can drink a beer or two and
Yeah.
still drive and it's fine.
Yeah.
But I mean, for me, and maybe I did do too much, but I would not have like even understood that I was in a car for a good part of the night.
Right.
Or my reaction time
Mm-hmm.
statistically is proven to be slower. I don't think anyone should mess around with it, but I feel like a lot of people do. I from experience, I know a lot of people who smoke and will smoke and feel comfortable enough to drive.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe they are, but maybe it's this blind confidence, or I mean, I'm sure a lot of people who drive drunk feel like they feel fine enough
Yeah. I
to
feel
drive.
like they're okay to drive.
For me personally, that's like something that I think if you get pulled over, and I don't know, do you know, can they test on you there if you're other than the weed smell coming out of the car? Like,
I really don't know. I mean, there's things they can look at, like your eyes, to see if your eyes are bloodshot or
or just maybe a
glazed
regular
over.
sobriety test.
Yeah, I guess you could do like a walking test, but I don't know if there's like a field chemical test to prove that you're high at that time, because you can do a pee test, but that shows that you've used
Right.
marijuana within like the past 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they can like look at maybe the amount in your system and judge if you're
Yeah.
currently high. I don't.
Especially versus eating versus smoking. I would think maybe with smoking it would be more on your breath, and there could maybe be some kind of breathalyzer test for it.
I don't
But
know.
like people who eat edibles, like I don't know if you could test that. But
I
for
don't
me
know.
personally, I'm totally against smoking and driving, and I'm against drinking and driving.
Yes,
And I just don't think
yes.
it's like if you're gonna smoke, even if it's a little bit, like you need to make sure you're in a situation where you're not gonna go anywhere until the effects wear off. And
Right.
I don't know. I'm totally against smoking while driving.
Yeah.
And I
I'm
think if
against
you
it
get,
too.
I think if you get pulled over and there is a way to prove it or not prove it, like I think you should be ticketed, and just like you would for DWI or something.
Yeah, I agree. I think it should be exactly the same as a DWI if you get pulled over. I'm all for using it the right way. This kind of brings me to the thought of use versus abuse.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There are very successful people who smoke marijuana on a regular basis. Celebrities, politicians, a lot of people you don't know smoke marijuana, but they actually do.
Right.
And then there's people on the opposite end of the spectrum who stay in their parents' basement all day and eat Cheetos and play video games. So again, coming back to it affects everyone differently. I mean, you can choose to kind of use it the correct way and be productive and maybe even use it to help you in certain ways, or you can let it take over your life and you can become this lazy person who absolutely does nothing.
And you can do that with anything. I mean, you can abuse TV and not take care of your priorities. You can
Yes.
abuse food and to an unhealthy point.
Mm-hmm.
And I think just in any aspect of your life, you need to analyze: am I using things in a healthy way?
Yeah.
One thing that kind of brings up for me is, fuck, I totally lost it.
Is it
was
addictive? Or is
yes,
it-
yes. Is it addictive?
Okay. All right. So here's my opinion on is it addictive. I would say physically, no, but I would say mentally, yes. I would say that there are people who use it and they feel good and they have a sense of euphoria, and then they're just chasing that high. And maybe there's something going on in their life where they can't deal with what's going on, or they're having a tough time, and they use marijuana as an escape, but they do it every day, and they smoke more and more, and they just get to the point where their tolerance is so high that they're doing dabs and they're smoking blunts. And it's like, if you're doing nothing but smoking weed all day long and you're high all day long, you're addicted,
Right.
But as far as there being like a chemical, like if you try it once, are you gonna be addicted? I don't believe so. For me personally, I got to the point where I felt I was doing it too much, so I toned it back. I said, hey, look at what you're doing. Do you really want to be doing it this often? And I was like, no. So I just changed the way I was doing it. But I don't think everybody has that mentality.
For sure. It's a lot of, and again, with anything, it's a lot of willpower and just knowing yourself and doing what you're supposed to do.
This is kind of off topic slightly, but it has to do with drug addiction. Have you heard of that? I don't know what university did it or what group put it on, but the rat study with heroin. Have you heard of that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so basically this is how the first experiment went. There was a rat in a cage, and it had a bottle of water without heroin, and it had a bottle of water with heroin in it. And, the rat tried both, and then eventually it caught on to the fact that there was heroin in one of them.
That's insane.
And it just kept drinking it and
So it
drinking
was addicted to the
and drinking
heroin.
it and became severely addicted to the heroin and didn't even want the regular water. Now, there was another study done after that where they made a thing called Rat Park. And it was essentially like this giant rat cage with multiple rats in it, and they had wheels, and they had, little toys to push around, and food and different activities and stuff. And they had water bottles, again, with water and water with heroin. And what they found is that they did them equally, or water more. They didn't become addicted to the heroin. And the thought behind that is they had something to do. And I know that's with rats, but as far as it goes with humans, during the Vietnam War, I don't know what percentage it was, but there was a lot of U.S. troops who were addicted to heroin whenever they were in Vietnam. Now, whenever they came back, they kind of tracked those troops and found out that the majority of them just stopped doing heroin. And the thought was, well, why did they stop doing heroin if it's such an addictive drug? And the reason is because they came back to life over here, and it wasn't hell like it was over there. So drugs are used as a form of escape, whether it be heroin or marijuana or alcohol or caffeine. Everybody uses drugs differently, but I think it has a lot to do with where you're at in life and what's going on in your life. I don't think it necessarily is more addictive than playing video games,
So what about like the gateway drug kind of thing?
I think that's all bullshit, really. I mean, I'm sorry to be so blunt about it, but
Blunt.
that's a good pun. That was a good one.
Yeah, that was nice.
But no, I mean, yeah, it can be. If you go, hey, I'm using this to deal with something in my life, and it's getting to the point where
you need something
I
more.
need something stronger, and I feel like I'm not getting what I was getting before. Maybe that person, instead of taking time off and letting their tolerance die down and acknowledging the fact that they're becoming immune to it, they go to something stronger. I mean, you can go both ways, but I don't think it's physically addictive, and I don't think it really leads to other drug use.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I feel like maybe not so much that marijuana specifically is like what makes you want to try something else. I just think if you're the kind of person who's willing to try marijuana, then you might also be the kind of person who's willing to try something else. Like, if the line for you is already at drugs and you don't, then no, you're not going to go on to heroin or something stronger than marijuana.
Right.
But if your line is a little bit past marijuana, then it's just wherever your own personal line is.
Yeah.
Like if you're gonna try heroin, you were gonna try heroin whether or not you were gonna try marijuana. I kind of personally think.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
Because if you're not intelligent enough to look at the next, let's just say it's like you're a weed user and then you're looking at heroin. And you go, oh, I'll just try heroin. But in your mind, you're not thinking, oh, I could just die from this the first time I use it.
Right.
Well, then you're not very smart. And it's like, what are you doing? That also leads me to one thing about marijuana is that nobody's ever OD'd from marijuana. You can die from it if you smoke like 500 pounds of it and your lungs are full of smoke. You can die of smoke inhalation, but you cannot OD from it. So I don't know. I just want to throw that out there.
Yeah, I have. Well, I think it doesn't reach so when you overdose on something, what it is your body reaches toxic levels of it. Like you can overdose on water. Whenever you take in so much water, it's a toxic level for your body, and there's negative effects. While though people say you couldn't smoke enough weed for it to be like that, I think it's 15 pounds of weed is what you would need to smoke to even kind of reach a toxic level.
Honestly, impossible.
Right, and even where it's legal, to have that much weed is illegal, so it'd be really hard to do. But I've heard of a lot of people who will take edibles since there's kind of this waiting period because it's got to go through your intestines and all that stuff where you feel the effects, that they'll do way too much of an edible and then they wind up in ER, not necessarily because they're about to die, but because they're
they're about to die.
they're psychotic at that point.
There, this is kind of a joke, but there was this couple who made brownies, and they were actually police officers. So they made weed brownies,
Okay.
and then they called the 911, and it's a recording of the 911 call, and they're like, yeah, we need an ambulance sent. I think we're dying. No, he goes, I think we're dead. And then they're like, what happened? He's like, we made a whole bunch of brownies, and like time is going really, really slow. And I don't know. I just thought that was hilarious.
Yeah.
But you can think that like
you're
the
gonna
world's
die,
coming to
right.
the end, but everything is gonna be okay. Like it's gonna pass, But that's hard to tell somebody who's not well versed in it and doesn't know that it's gonna happen.
Right. I'm sure there's like ways that you technically like could indirectly, impaired driving, the marijuana
I mean,
could kill
yeah, you could. Well, of course.
with
yeah.
people who have seizures, alcohol and marijuana can like increase seizure activity, and someone can seize so bad that they die. So I mean, you just definitely have to be careful. What else?
Coming back, you just mentioned alcohol, and I wanted to bring this up. To I don't want to like direct it at anyone, but to people who think that marijuana shouldn't be legal for recreational use, my kind of counterpoint to that would be, well, if you believe that alcohol should be legal, then I don't see how you could possibly say that marijuana for recreational use shouldn't, because I truly believe that marijuana is safer than alcohol. You could go to Walmart right now and you could buy enough alcohol to kill yourself
In a night, yeah.
100%. You couldn't do that with marijuana. So right there, you could make the argument that it's, alcohol is more harmful. Also, if anyone's ever had a hangover out there, you wake up the next day after drinking alcohol and you feel awful, and you can just it's poison in your body.
Right.
You could smoke a ton of marijuana, and the next morning you'd wake up feeling fine.
And I will say, from my personal experience, next morning was totally fine, and even by the end of that evening, I was fine.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't have any.
Yeah,
I never felt sick.
It's temporary.
I got scared.
Yeah.
I got scared and I was freaking out, but I never got sick. Which
Right.
I mean, gosh, there's been a couple times where, I was younger and stupider, and I got to the point with alcohol where I was like, holy cow, like why did I do this? I'm never doing this ever again, and I honestly can proudly say that I haven't been like, had so much alcohol that I've been sick the next morning for like at least like 3 years now.
Right, you learned your lesson.
Yeah, and that's like my own personal thing, and kind of like what you're saying with, well, if you think alcohol is okay, how could you think weed's not okay?
Mm-hmm.
And for me personally, like I think alcohol is okay in moderation.
Yes,
I think
I agree.
marijuana is okay in moderation.
Mm-hmm.
So like, why am I anti? For one thing that I can like think of is, it doesn't matter if we're smoking like grass or like weed grass. Like there's nothing that you can burn and then inhale into your lungs, and then that's good for you. Like that's always going to have a negative effect. Why else am I negative? The kind of people that bother me are the people who are like, no negative side effects at all. It cures cancer and like all these things. And I just hate that they're like, they take what could be good and then they just completely trash it because they're wrong about so many
aspects
of it.
Yeah.
And then the other people that kind of bother me is like what you said, are the ones who are like always high.
Yeah.
And, because like if you're a person who's always drunk, like
right.
I just kind of get turned off from that as well.
I think that if you're never sober, that's not a good place to be. It's just not. I mean, I don't know. I'm such a libertarian. I feel like people should be able to do basically whatever they want. But if you're letting it control your life and it's like, it's taking over your life, it's bad. You're doing it too much. I think a lot of people just don't see it that way, and they just get caught in this cycle where they keep using it and using more and more and more, and they never just think to themselves, hey, maybe I shouldn't be doing this, or maybe they're afraid to face the actual things that are causing them to use it. I think that's a lot of it too. Again, getting into alcohol. So at one point, alcohol was prohibited in the United States. During that time period, people still wanted alcohol because people want to drink alcohol, and if you tell them something's illegal, most people are still going to do it if they really want to do it.
Right.
And at that time, alcohol was controlled by the mafia. It was controlled by gangsters.
Al Capone.
Yeah, exactly. So and it was more dangerous to use. You know, there was no government regulations on
Mm-hmm.
it. You had to go to shady places to get it. And that's where we're at with marijuana right
Mm-hmm.
now. And I truly believe that if it was just legal in every state, there are so many issues that we're having right now that would be solved.
Right.
And another point to that is if people are afraid that like kids are going to use marijuana, you want it to be legal in your state. And here's why. If it's illegal, that underage kid can go to a drug dealer and they can buy it. A drug dealer is not going to be carding a younger kid, okay? But if it's legal everywhere, those drug dealers are going to go away. There's going to be no need for it. And those places that are responsible for selling it, they're going to be carding people. They're going to make sure that, hey, this is who it says on the ID. They're of proper age to be selling this. Also, as far as like drug trafficking and stuff like that, you know, drugs coming up from Mexico, it causes all kinds of issues, gang violence. And if it was legal, I just feel like so many issues would just disappear and
So
go
you
away.
think dealers would go away?
Yeah, there'd be no point. Like,
What about
I mean,
for the? I mean, with it being such an old age, 21, 25, I feel like even at 21, an 18-year-old kid who wants to smoke some marijuana
a
would
21-year-old friend could go into a dispensary and buy it for them? Is that what
that
you're
or
getting at?
even there might be dealers for that population, someone who, and I don't know how that would look, but I do agree that the government, I mean, there's people out there who will go to buy some marijuana and it's like laced with cocaine,
Yeah.
or when it's regulated, it's at least safer.
Yeah, 100%. You know what you're getting. It's regulated. I don't know if the FDA has any
I would think so.
thing to
I would
do
think
with
so.
like testing it, but you know how potent it is. The THC levels would be on the. I'm pretty sure that's how it works in like Colorado. You can see the percentage of THC, so you know how strong it is. Not to mention tax revenue. Making money off of it. It's not going to drug cartels. This money's going to be going to schools. You know, it's going to be going to roads. It's going to be going to places where we actually need those funds to go to. I just feel like it's 100% a no-brainer. That
For sure.
I don't know. Those are some of the reasons I think it should be legal. But indica versus sativa. That was one thing I wanted to bring up briefly.
I know nothing.
You don't know. Okay. So the easy way to remember it is indica is couch. That's what they say.
Okay.
So indica is more of a like relax you. You know, you just feel lazy. You know, calm. It's more of the stoned feel is what they call it. And then sativa is more of a high, and you're more. You can be more active with it. You're more awake. You know, you don't feel as drowsy. But again,
Which one do you prefer? Do you want to answer?
well, here's a good thing to bring up. Most of the weeds, most of the weed that is out today is some type of hybrid.
Mixture of both.
So it's a mixture of both. I don't even know if you can truly get 100% sativa or 100% indica, but the majority of them are mixed. And here's the other thing. I've heard that it's kind of it's again a person-to-person thing where people say a sativa is more of an upper than a downer, but again, it affects everyone differently. So depending on the percentage of the hybrid, it can affect you a little bit differently. But again, some people feel more awake when they do it, and there's just some people who smoke weed and they feel very lazy and very mellowed out. So it really just depends.
So I guess hypothetically for me, where I still am kind of reluctant is like, like caffeine is a drug,
Yes.
and it's one that I partake in.
Yeah.
I'm a huge coffee drinker. I love going to Starbucks. I love, I love that. And I just wonder, would we get to a point to where there would be a weed coffee shop where people are just coming and, kind of what you see in
100%
coffee
there will
shops
be.
now.
Oh yeah.
But then it's where do you draw the line? Okay, so back in ancient times, there was literally poppy houses, which is opiates, where
Yes.
people would go and
Opium dens.
yeah, would just go and do heroin together at a coffee house. So it's I'm definitely not for that.
Okay,
but
yeah.
so for me personally, it's well, where do I draw this line at? And that's what
Okay.
I struggle with.
Okay.
And I see positives, but I see negatives of maybe not a gateway drug, but where do we stop?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what's the prevent? There's probably I wouldn't know necessarily, but I would imagine there's heroin users who feel bad about their use of the substance. But I would imagine that there's probably a lot of heroin users who maybe kind of have the same mindset that marijuana users have.
Where they're like, oh, this is just okay.
Yeah, this is it works for me. I know how much I can do, and
Yeah. I'm sure that person's out there. I mean, with how many people there are in the world, I'm sure that person exists. As far as we kind of keep using heroin as an example, there are countries where heroin is legal, and where they had a major heroin problem, and then they were fighting it for years and years, and then they decided, okay, let's try this and let's make it legal. I'm not sure exactly. I had an example in my mind. I want to say Peru, and then I also want to say like maybe Switzerland or Denmark or something. They made heroin legal, and by making it legal, they got it off the streets. They made sure it wasn't laced with other things that would kill people, and they actually put it in like medical facilities, and they started programs where people who were addicted to it could come to the medical facility. This is kind of weird, but they would, be injected. They would be under supervision from a doctor, and then they wouldn't be allowed to take it out. And they could just use it, and then they could leave. And what they actually found is that people would come back for a while, but the vast majority of people who were doing that eventually got off of it. There were like a very, very small percentage of people who just continued to use it at the clinic. But again, and I'm a super libertarian. I'm for basically letting people do whatever they want. And I understand that that's like in a controlled scenario, but I don't know. I'm really on the fence about that. But I just think that anytime you try to make something illegal, people are still going to want to do it.
For sure.
Like how long has this war on drugs been going on since Nixon, essentially? Drug use is higher than ever. It's like, it doesn't matter how hard you try to crack down on it. People are still going to do it. So I think making it safe is beneficial. I think it's a good thing.
Yeah. It's something that I'm kind of like, well, where do I, like I said, where do I draw that line? And I don't know, really. I don't know to what extent I would want to see things go to.
My opinion on anything is that if you aren't hurting yourself, I say if you aren't hurting yourself or you're not hurting anyone else, then I'm okay with it. But when you get to heavy marijuana use, I think you are hurting yourself a little bit. And then whenever you get into like heroin use, you're hurting yourself. I mean, you're killing yourself. That's like a poison, you know? But again, now I come back to alcohol. It's like there are people out there who abuse alcohol and it's legal, you know? So I don't know, man.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we're kind of getting at this, like,
we're at that
is
point.
humanity just the problem? Like, is there anything we can do to make people not
I think
uncontrollably use stuff?
I think that if people have problems in their life, they want an escape, and some people go to drugs for that. Some people go to running. Some people do healthy things whenever they deal with stress and anxiety. They run, or you go to the gym, they hit the bag, so it really all depends. So I think that people are always going to do drugs, and I think people are always going to have problems, unless we come to some like super enlightenment
utopia,
and everybody thinks the same way. And I don't know if that would ever happen, but I don't know.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Sometimes, Dylan, I feel like we talk and we just kind of spin into this like
I know.
circle of.
We go to a place and I'm like, I don't know where to go.
We don't know
from here.
anything about life.
Like, I don't know where to go from
We
here.
think we have all these opinions, but we don't know anything.
I don't think anybody has the right answer.
Right.
I think it's just trying things out. And look, we've been trying the war against drugs thing, and it made it worse and worse and worse. So now I think we're going to the area of, okay, let's legalize it, let's monitor it, and let's see what happens. So I think that's where we're at right now. And as far as how far we go down the spectrum, I don't know. But I think we're going in the right direction. I truly do. That introspective thought, I don't think enough people think about why they think a certain way, if that makes any sense. I think certain people have opinions about things, and it's just, okay, just for an example, if you're a Republican or Democrat, you're kind of saying, okay, I believe all of these things and none of these things, okay?
Yeah.
It's like, did you think about the fact, like, why did I become a Democrat? Or why did I become a Republican? And do I really agree with all of these things in this one box? Or am I saying that I agree with them? Or am I thinking I agree with all those things just because I want to be on this team or I want to be on that team? And as I've gotten older, I've become more of a centrist in every aspect of my life. And I go, well, I like a few things from this side and I like a few things from this side. And I don't think enough people have that mentality.
I've said this before. For me, I would say 90% of my beliefs were based on what my parents believed. And I don't think that's wrong. As a, child through 18-year-old. I don't think that's wrong if the majority of your beliefs stem from, what that's part of your parents'
Most people's
jobs.
do.
Yeah, and so but I think though at 18, 20, 21, whatever it is for you, you need to find this point and really self-analyze.
Yeah.
And it's okay if you disagree with your parents. You'll probably both be better, people and understand your own position better if
Yeah.
you have open discourse with your parents.
Yeah.
Like for me, I was raised Christian, and I think it was around like 19. I was like, I talk to people all the time about my own Christian beliefs, and I had background. I was well versed compared to most people, but I was like, I think it's crazy that I'm here saying that I believe in what someone might call a religion, to the point that I would die for these beliefs and die with these beliefs,
Right.
and I've never even read our whole book. So I personally challenged myself. I was like, all right, let's read beginning to end, and do I still feel the way I do? And I can proudly say that I do still feel the way that I do. But you definitely need to, whether it's political, religious, or whatever the philosophical, whatever the category, take your beliefs and analyze them. One for me was marijuana. When I was growing up, I was like, if you smoke marijuana, you're stupid.
I felt the same way.
And
Yes.
it's like it made you a bad person.
Yep.
It's a bad thing to do.
Yep.
I don't hold that to belief anymore. The belief I hold now is it has some positive effects as well as negative effects, as many substances do, many things in life do.
Right.
And someone just needs to be, balanced. And I think you can take most things in life, or maybe a good amount of things in life, you can spin, evilly, or you can, do some good with it. There's some things that are inherently bad, or some things that are inherently good, but I don't know. You got to really look at what you're doing and what you believe.
I think weed helps people with that. Or at least it helps me with that.
Yeah.
And it really, really made me think about why I think certain things, or why I believe certain things.
And I've said this before, Dylan. I'll say it again. I've had negative experience with marijuana users. I've had an experience with those people who they're doing it at every social outing, or they're doing it like all day. Like I'll shoot them a text and they're high, and you might not feel it. And maybe it's not all the time, but there's a certain point of being high where it's just like whenever you're drunk and talking to a sober person, like the sober person knows that there's a difference between the mentality. And I would get annoyed at parties if, there was like someone I wanted to talk to or hang out, and they were like so
Checked
high.
out mentally.
Yeah, checked out mentally.
Yeah.
And
I agree.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, you can use it too much, okay? I mean, you can use it a little bit, and you can feel the positive effects from it, and you can feel good, and you can feel a sense of relief and all those things. But again, it mellows you out, and it does change you a little bit. But what I would counter with that is, again, it depends on the amount and it depends on the person, but you're there. Like, you know what I mean? Like, whenever you're drunk, you just flat out, you could just be like, your brain is on autopilot and you're just going at it. But I think on marijuana, you're always thinking about what you're doing, and you're always there mentally, or at least I am. And I'm always thinking about what I'm saying, and I know what's going on. But yeah, with alcohol, sometimes you can just go off the rails. Here's another thing about marijuana. Okay. I don't know if this is true, but I heard that if you signed up for, I don't know if it's medical marijuana or if it's just to use it recreationally in certain states, that your gun rights can be taken away from you. Have you heard about that?
No, I haven't.
Okay. Apparently, like, I don't know if this is true, so I'm just kind of speaking out of my butt, but here's the counterpoint I wanted to make. So a lot of drugs make people agitated and more hyped up and more aggressive and stuff like that. The last thing a person's going to do, a person who's high, they're not going to, like, go shoot up a place. Like, there's no way. You're going to be way less violent whenever you're high. So, I don't know. I'm team weed more than any other drug.
Yeah.
Like, people are more kind. They're nicer people whenever they do it. And that's been my experience.
Yeah, I agree. And, I mean, there's kind of that, like, that hippie vibe and, like, the love everyone
Peace and love,
vibe.
man.
Yeah. And I'm there for that, but I'm just able to achieve that without marijuana. And I'm also, like, kind of, like, wondering, is there a point where it's too much? And we've kind of talked about that.
Yeah.
But for me, like, if you're a parent and you would rather, like, smoke than be a parent,
Yeah.
I feel like that's an issue.
Yeah.
That's something I kind of struggle with. And I know people who are parents and would rather smoke than be parents, and they'll smoke and get high. Why they should be watching their kid?
I know people who. Okay, I know. I'm just thinking of one person who's a celebrity who said that they're high around their kids. Like, I mean, not like out of their brain high, not like dabs high, but a little high, and it makes them a more loving person. You know, they want to like love on their kids. They want to give their kids hugs. They want to engage with them. They want to talk to them. Now, do I think that's healthy? I mean, I'm not going to say no, and I'm not going to say yes. And I think it would be messed up if you had to be high to have that experience with your kid. But I think if you do it when you're not high and you just, you know, you do it when you are, I mean, I don't know. We're getting on a line here where I'm not sure. I mean, I don't have kids, but I mean, the difference between being like drunk and being around your children and being high, they're completely 100% different. You know what I mean? It's two completely different things. And I don't think I don't know. I don't want to say if you're high, you should be around kids. That just sounds wrong.
If you're high, you should. It's okay.
That sounds
be with children.
It sounds super wrong coming out of my mouth, but I don't know. Everyone's different.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
You know, there's kind of that stereotype of the drunk parent who maybe beats their children, but you don't really. I think with marijuana, you could maybe lead more to neglect. Like if you're sitting on the couch eating Cheetos while the kid's in the other room doing whatever, that's kind of, you know, the bad points.
Yeah.
But I feel like we've hit a lot, Dylan. Yeah. I think this was a good conversation.
For sure.
Maybe what might be nice is just do kind of like a little recap on our own beliefs.
Okay.
So I don't even want to say that I'm pro marijuana because I'm not. I think I'm pro CBD.
Okay.
I'm not so sure if I think THC should be included in the recreational legal kind of thing, or maybe I could lean that way a little bit, but definitely small amounts, and I'm definitely against overdoing it and doing it all the time. But that being said, legal in Missouri I think would be a benefit for, you know, tax reasons, violence reasons.
Yeah.
And I think while I'm not pro, I kind of support the direction that we're going for the most part.
Yeah.
I'm glad that my beliefs have changed, that I don't automatically think you're a bad person if you smoke marijuana. I'm glad I was able to get rid of that stereotype for myself. What about you? Just general thoughts.
Yeah, I'm pro marijuana.
100%.
Well,
80%.
99.9%. And because I always think there's room for overuse or for abuse as opposed to use. If you're not doing anything and you're letting it take over your life, it's unhealthy. It's not a good thing. But I think I want to say the majority of people use it correctly, but again, I don't know. There's no like statistics out there on it, but I'm for it being used for medical use and I'm for it being used for recreational use. Also, I think that if you're using it to deal with anxiety or stress, I think that's okay. I think that, you know, people use certain things as a crutch from time to time to help them get through tough times. And if that's something that you're using to help you get through something, that's okay. And I kind of think that might be better than using pharmaceutical drugs to help you with those things. I mean, there are people who use them the right way and they helps them get through something and they get off, but then there's also people who get on pharmaceutical drugs and then they stay on them. And I mean, I'm not a doctor. I don't know if that's necessarily healthy, but I know that marijuana is a plant. I know it comes from the earth. It's natural. And if you can use it to help you feel good and relax and you're using it correctly, I'm 100% for it.
Right on.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, comments.
I feel like there's definitely something we probably missed.
Yeah.
And I'm probably going to be upset as soon as we end this and I think about it. But this is a controversial topic. If you were leading into, if you have questions, please
email us. If you... And I'm like this with every topic. If you hear something and you're like, wow, I totally disagree, and you'd be willing to come on, we're always looking for guests. Shoot us an email and say, hey, let's do marijuana part 2. And we can just hit it from a different angle.
They can comment on the poll, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. If you voted on the poll on whether it should be used for recreational use, whether yes or no, and you'd like to go in the comments and defend your point of view or say, yeah, I think it should be used for recreational, or it should be legal for recreational use because of X, Y, and Z, or I think that it shouldn't because of X, Y, and Z. Please feel free. If you wanna comment on that and let us know specifically why you feel the way you feel, please do that. But if you don't feel comfortable sharing your views on the Facebook page and in the comments, please email us, and we'd love to get back to you.
Yeah. Say you wanted anonymous. We'll keep it anonymous.
Yeah, definitely. There's some people who are afraid to talk about it.
Mhm.
But yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll see you. Maybe not next week.
Yeah. We'll see you soon.
We'll see you sometime.
We'll see you soon.
See you
Thanks,
guys. Hey, that's
Dude,
us.
if I had hair, I would have
What would
hair.
you do? What would you do?
I would do this a lot. Because I used to do that.
a lot.
I used to do that a lot.